Has gotten a first-hand lesson in flying one of those experimental planes. Morning, Jose.
Good morning, Mark. It's called the Rutan Long Easy, and I am at Linden Municipal Airport in New Jersey, where a very experienced pilot took me on one of these to fly around. We'll show you that story coming up.
They call it a Rutan Long Easy, an experimental aircraft that made headlines this week when singer John Denver died in the crash of one. Federal officials say Denver had been flying without a valid pilot's license after 2 drunk driving arrests, but investigators found no signs he'd been drinking before his fatal crash. Authorities also report that the wreckage already recovered appears to show the plane was sound before the accident. Denver's death has focused attention on safe flying for light planes and their pilots. Our Jose Diaz-Balart got a lesson in flying. He joins us from Linden Airport in Linden, New Jersey this morning. Good morning, Jose.
Good morning, Mark. As the helicopter takes off, I can tell you that I took off on this airplane, which is the exact replica of the one John Denver was in, with the man who built it. He is one of the best in the business, a former F-16 Air Force pilot and instructor. His name is Peter Magnuson, and here's how the flight went.
"60 knots and 65 were airborne."
Tell me a little bit about the plane performance-wise. How fast can it go? How high up can it go?
Well, we're cruising right now at about 185 miles an hour. We're down low right now, but I've headed up to 17,000 feet. I would have done higher, but I didn't have oxygen.
Peter, how easy is this to maneuver?
It's a tremendous plane to maneuver. I've flown a lot of planes, and this is very close to a fighter. If you've got a free hand, why don't you go ahead and fly it, Jose?
All right.
Just take your fingertips, hold it on the top of the stick. You got the airplane? Yeah, go ahead and try a turn.
This is so easy.
Yep.
A lot of times when you hear experimental planes, you'll say, uh-oh, it's kind of like a kite with an engine on it.
Yeah.
Is this plane safe?
I'd say that this is even safer than many of your Cessnas and so forth. You can do a lot of stuff with this plane that you'd never even want to dream of doing with a Cessna or a Piper. To be honest with you, I've flown for 20 years or so, and I'm much more comfortable climbing into this than into something that's production built. Okay, we've got to get down to helicopter speed now.
Now you're just really slowing it down. This is almost stalling here.
Yep. I'm showing 60 knots, and I'm on the backstop right now. And you see the nose is lowering slowly?
Yeah. It's pretty interesting that we actually almost stalled this thing.
Yep.
And yet it's just gliding.
That's right.
What other planes can you do this with, Peter? Very few.
The only other plane I know of is the F-16.
I'm not comparing the two planes, but structurally this plane is stronger than the F-16 and the F-14.
In one sense, you're not carrying the weight it does, but for the weight we have, relatively speaking, it's a very strong plane. I've never heard of one that broke up due to a structural failure.
Is there an aspect to this plane that is more difficult to fly than, let's say, another plane for a combat expert?
If they're used to flying regular planes, they need a little transition to get used to sitting on your back, so the picture is different. The speeds are a little bit faster. You've got to be thinking a little bit more ahead of the plane than if you're used to just flying 90 miles an hour when you're going 180 miles an hour. Here's the field right here, Jose. We're going to come in and land. A little bit of a crosswind. Yep. And there's a squeak.
Fabulous landing. And one of the real attractions of this plane is that you can go about 1,000 miles and about 200 miles an hour. Peter Magnuson joins us this morning. Thanks for being with us. Peter, what exactly is an experimental plane?
Experimental airplane is actually a category of registration with the FAA. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're doing something no one has ever done before.
This isn't like a prototype of something?
No, no, no.
This model's been around for, what, 22 years?
That's right, that's right. Proven design.
Now, you hand-built this in your home.
Yeah.
Tell me about that process.
Oh, it was an incredible experience. A lot of work, very exacting, very detailed plans. It's very creative. You start with raw materials and then you climb in it and go fly it.
Some people will ask you, that's the issue, quality control. How can you tell that this plane is structurally sound?
Well, my credit goes to the designer. He has really put together a tremendous design. My confidence was very high. Now that I've flown it for 15 years, 10 foreign countries, I've been to probably 40 states. I had it in Switzerland and circled the Matterhorn at 14,000 feet. This plane I built in my garage in Texas. So.
It's amazing. You know, some of the witnesses in the John Denver incident said they heard what appeared to be the engine stall and just literally drop like a rock into the water. What went through your mind when you heard that description of what happened?
I don't know what happened with that accident. It sounded like maybe he hit something. I've never heard of one of these fall out of the sky. There's 2,000 or 3,000 of them flying worldwide. So I don't know what happened with his situation, but it seems very unlikely. This plane is built very well.
Some statistics say that as many as 20% of the accidents that occur on experimental airplanes occur during the first or second flight. This was clearly one of Mr. Denver's first or second flights on this aircraft. Why is it that these accidents occur so early on?
Well, if you watch the videotape that Rutan puts together for test flying this plane, he recommends that you take your time. Don't jump right in it after you've been pouring your blood, sweat, and tears in it for 5 or 10 years or whatever.
Why? What's the danger?
It's just you're just so rushing to get it in the air that you start to cut some corners maybe. I took my time when I went and test flew this first, and it was a tremendous, great time the first flight.
Peter Magson, thank you very much for taking me on a spin. It was very interesting.
Okay.
Thanks for being with us on this morning. Mark, back to you.
Thank you, Jose. Jose Diaz-Balart in Linden, New Jersey this morning. Jane?
Thanks.